Good morning, guys. It is lovely Saturday morning here in Luxor, and we are starting our main exploration today. The first object that we are gonna cover is the Karnak complex, which is very huge, and it is in fact the biggest temple complex which was built in the ancient history. It was constantly rebuilt and upgraded for more than 2000 years, and many of the pharaohs of the New Kingdom had their buildings added to the complex. You will see it in a bit when we reach it. By the way, Luxor was the capital of the New Kingdom. Before that, Giza was the capital of the Old and the Middle Kingdoms. So now we are exploring the New Kingdom. This is the beginning of the Karnak complex. In a bit we are going to enter inside and see what we have. Unfortunately, it is a bit early because we are trying to avoid the crowds and the sun is hitting directly in our direction, but anyway, we will do what we can. Here you have a map of the archaeological and tourist sites in Egypt, and here you can see only the region of Luxor. These are objects mainly from the New Kingdom. So this is the beginning, and this section here is pretty interesting because this is the signatures of different pharaohs. Every pharaoh had such signature, which is called cartouche. This is a French word, but they use it today. So this complex really was built over the centuries by many different pharaohs. So guys, from here you can see much better how impressive this place is. This wall is 33 meters high. This is like a 10 story building in today's times, and it was built almost 4,000 years ago with these huge stone blocks. So here is the first part. I asked our guide and he explained that there are some remains here even from the Middle Kingdom, but most of the things that you see today as preserved are only from the New Kingdom, which is between 1550 before Christ and around the year 300 before Christ, when Alexander the Great conquered the region and ended the New Kingdom. This is a really huge place. So guys, this is a small temple of Ramses III. Yesterday, when we were on the West Bank, we saw his big temple, his mortuary temple, which was only for him. But most of the pharaohs here also had small temples inside this huge complex. And as you can see, it is indeed relatively well preserved, considering how old it is. So let's see what we have here. This is wow. This is another section. So let's check what we have inside. This is a very touristy place, so you can expect a lot of people when you come here. So guys, let me give you some more information about this place. This is the altar where the nobles came and placed their offerings for the gods here. It is made from alabaster, which is a very expensive and very famous stone here in Egypt. And the nobles could come only in this part, the entrance. They come here to the altar, they put their offerings, and that's it. The section that you see in front of us, which is the main entrance, was accessible only for the priests. So this is a very impressive statue of Ramses III. As you can see, it was built by a huge single piece of granite, which is coming here from Aswan in the south of the country. Very well preserved. So we are entering now the main section, and as you can see, the carvings here are very well preserved, and even there is some cover which was not restored. This is all original, and it is really impressive how great this thing is, how it was preserved for so much of a time. This is the so-called Great Columns Hall. You can pretty easy see why it is called like that, because these columns are massive. I just want to show you guys how many columns there are here. And we can only imagine how the whole complex looked when there was also a roof, because most of the roof is now destroyed. Only some fragments of it are preserved, but even like that, it is really huge and impressive. Here is a bit of close-up view, so that you can see the impressive amount of detail of these columns, and also how well preserved are the colors. So I just confirmed with our guide that these colors are indeed authentic. They were not restored in any way, they just cleaned them from the dust. And here you can also see some parts of the upper sections of the temple which are preserved, and you can see how tall it is. And also in this section there was a total of 100 and there is a total of 134 pillars, columns. So this is the obelisk of King Thutmose I, who was the first king to be buried in the Valley of the Kings, which we are going to see later. And in the background you can see the obelisk of the Queen Hatshepsut. We will also see her temple a bit later during the day. So here is the second obelisk, the one of Queen Hatshepsut that we saw a bit earlier, but here it is up close. And in fact she built two. The second one was there, they were symmetrical, but it was destroyed by an earthquake later. So here we have the statues of god Amun-Ra and his wife, and here we have the two sacred plants, lotus and the papyrus. And here we have some very interesting columns. So this section was the holiest section, and the whole temple was built around it. Here there was the statues of the gods, and it was dark, and only the high priest and the king could enter here to pray to the gods. These are the stars that this symbolizes the sky. And during the winter solstice, the sun comes from here and it lights everything directly to the entrance. So it was built very clever in a way, in such a way that you can't see what's going on inside, but the gods can see everything that is happening. So here, this is what's left from the second obelisk of Queen Hatshepsut. In fact, this one was symmetrical to this one, which we saw earlier, but it fell down because of an earthquake and only this part was left. So they choose to erect it, at least what's left of it, so that people can see it. So this is the sacred lake. And at this site, there were the houses of the priests. So when they get out of their house, they came here to this lake, which was connected to the river Nile with an underground channel. They take a bath to purify themselves, and after that, they can enter the temple and pray to the gods. And here you can see the scarabei, which was a good luck which was bringing a good luck back in these ancient times. So guys, this section is the start of the road which in the ancient times led from the Karnak to the Luxor Temple, which we are gonna see in a bit. Unfortunately, now you can do this trek, which is around 3 kilometers, but our guide explained us that soon this will again be possible. They are working on it. And here there were two obelisks, just like the ones which you can see in the distance, but unfortunately they are not present anymore, so you can't see them. So a long time ago there were many such statues like this that you can see here in the temple, but only these are left now. If they find some new, they move them to the museum. Only these are left. Well guys, we are just entering the Luxor Temple, which is our second object for the day. This temple started to be built around the year 1400 before Christ, and it was started by the Pharaoh Amenhotep III, and after that it was significantly expanded by Tutankhamun and Ramesses III, the second, Ramses II. So guys, a small correction. In fact, this road that you see, which is called the Road of the Sphinx, is the road which connects Karnak and Luxor, and it is open. I told you that it is still being constructed, but it turns out that it is open and you can in fact go between the sides. It is around a 3 kilometers hike. And originally this road was built by Ramses II between the two temples so that they can carry the statue of the gods via it. You can see a replica of the carriage there. So here is a close-up view. You can see a very beautiful obelisk on the left, and there was also one on the right. You can see the base of it, but the French took it, so it is now in Paris, and you can't see it here anymore. So this is the main entrance. You can see that this temple is also very impressive, just like Karnak, but maybe a little bit smaller. Anyway, these columns are also very good, very well preserved. And here you can see the first courtyard. Here you can see a very well preserved statue of Ramses II. The level of detail is simply amazing. So this temple is organized the same way as Karnak. Here in this court the nobles can come and pray to the gods, and you can see in the distance three temples for three different gods. So the nobles can come here and pray, but after this section, the inside section, only the king and the priests can go. The nobles can't go inside. These are Tutankhamun and his wife. They were the ones who extended the temple at the time of their rule. So this is the oldest part of the temple, which was built originally by Amenhotep III, and after that Tutankhamun and Ramses II extended it. We are now entering a more inner part of the temple with very huge and very beautiful columns. This place was really massive and really huge. Yes, Karnak is in some regards more impressive, but this one is also very beautiful. So yeah, this section was in fact the inner courtyard of the temple. There was no roof above us. There was roof only in this section between the columns, and from there you enter the most sacred part, just like in Karnak, which we will see in a bit. So guys, one interesting thing, all these columns are inspired by the papyrus, which is a sacred plant in Egypt, but this one symbolizes the open papyrus, or the day, the life, and these are the closed papyrus, or the night, the death. So everything here was done with a purpose, and there is symbolics behind it. So this part is very interesting because you can see different types of decorations. You can see the old Egyptian ones, but here you can see also some from the Byzantine and Roman times, because this part was also used as a Roman temple and later also as a Christian temple. So it is a pretty interesting combination of religions that you can see here. So originally this was a very big door. You can see where exactly it was, but at later stage in the next centuries it was partially closed, and this is the sanctuary area, the holiest of the holy, and you can see some very well preserved paintings and also artwork, which is really beautiful. And an interesting thing is that what you see here is the original ceiling, the original roof, which is preserved, and also quite a lot of the color is preserved. So the small temple that you see here is pretty interesting, that it was built by Alexander the Great. When he came to Egypt, he told to the people that he is their new pharaoh, and he also embraced their religion and prayed to the Egyptian gods, so that the people can accept him more easily and in more natural way. He told them that he is not an occupier, he is not somebody who is enslaving them, he is just their next pharaoh. So this is all from that time, from Alexander the Great, but this section is in fact from Amenhotep III. It is much older. And here you can see these figures here. This is Alexander the Great. As you can see, he had its own cartouche or signature, and he was considered a pharaoh by the people. And here is the inside of the temple, which was built by Alexander the Great. So this was some kind of a storage room for gold, silver and other precious things back at that time. And it had a roof. You can see some preserved fragments of the original roof. And here is the holiest section, just like in Karnak, the section where only the king and the chief priest could come and pray to the gods. So the structure in general is very similar like in Karnak, which is pretty normal because they were both built during the New Kingdom.